Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm sharing with you what I'm making today. So today I'm going to make this holiday spice soap. Here's the recipe for it here, right here. So you can see it's divided into three different sections. So there's an oil mixture, a lye mixture, and then the essential oil mixture. So as you can see behind me, I have all my supplies. So starting with the oil mixture, I'm going to make this start to finish for you so you can see exactly how it's done. But we have olive oil, coconut oil, almond oil, and shea butter here, and castor oil, and then that's all the oils. And then for the lye mixture, it's going to be distilled water and lye, and for essential oil, it's going to be orange, clove, and rosemary essential oils. So if you've never worked with lye before, I really recommend that you read about it and that you familiarize yourself with it. So this lye that I have is it's food grade lye. So lye is used to make in the bagel making process. You have to make a lye bath with it. So this is safe for eating. So it's going to be safe to use on your body also. But I really recommend that you read a little bit about what lye is and handling it. I'm also wearing old clothes today. I have long sleeves on, long pants, and shoes because I don't want to get any of this on me. I don't want to injure myself. Not that I would, but anything's possible. So it's better to be safe with all your personal protective equipment. So also, I wanted to show you what I have as far as I have separate materials that I use just for soap making because when you're using lye, you want to keep these things separate. You're not going to use these things to cook with. So I have an immersion blender that I'm only using to mix my soap in, and then I have these bags that I store everything in and keep them out in the garage. But I also have a spatula, my lye bucket, and then my lye sponge to clean all this stuff with. So I keep these things separate. And then I also have these are what I'm going to store the soap in after it's made. So I have a box that I've lined with foil, pretty high tech, but there's all types you could spend as much or as little as you want on these soap making supplies. There's molds and all kinds of things available, but I usually, this is another thing that I use. It's like, it's a, what is this? It's a pan, that you can make meatloaf or whatever in, and I never do, so I use it for soap. But you can see that it's like peeling out the Teflon or the coated stuff in here, so you have to be really careful, and like I'm going to line this with parchment paper. So I'll have my parchment paper here and line this pan with parchment paper before I use it. And then I'll just like push that down in there, make sure it goes over the side. But one of the other things that I have here is these boxes that I keep. This is like a fruit box. And then, I just keep these things because I can reuse them and I don't want to keep using a new garbage bag and that type of thing again and again. It stays clean. It's just being used to store the soap. So I also have a kitchen scale. So this is what I'm going to use to do all my measuring because I want everything to be really accurate. So I'm going to pause the video for a moment and we'll start measuring things out. So here we are outside in the garage. The very first thing I always do in my soap making process is mix the lye. The lye is the first thing that you're going to do. When you read about lye, it's going to tell you that you always want to add lye to the water and not the other way around, not water to the lye, because lye has this, I call it an exothermic reaction. So as soon as you add the lye to water, it's going to immediately heat up to 200 degrees. So, and there's going to be fumes and stuff. So the first thing, I always do this outside in the garage, as you can see my beautiful garage here. And so we're going to do that first. So I'm going to do that in my bucket. So I'm going to put my bucket on that kitchen scale. And I've also lined the kitchen scale with plastic wrap here because I don't want to get any lye on it because I'm going to use it for other things too. So I hit the on button and it's at 0 and I have it on ounces. So I'm going to need 15 ounces of distilled water. So I'm going to pour the distilled water directly into the bucket. So that was 2 ounces. So I have another one here. So pour 15 ounces of water into the bucket here. There we go. 1510, but that's all right. We'll be good with that. Then I have, this is my lye measuring cup here. So I only use lye in this and I keep it covered in a separate plastic wrap. So I'm going to put that on my scale, 0 it out, and we need 7.2 ounces of lye. Now, I'm not gonna be able to fit 7.2 ounces into this little container, so I'm gonna have to do this a couple times. But what I'm gonna do is I'll show you how I add it to my water, and I'm gonna like swirl it around. I'm gonna do that away from me to not have the fumes right in my face. So it's best if you can, you know, just measure things once, or you know, to not have to add or whatever, but it's all right. Okay, so that's 3 ounces here. So this is pretty full. So, okay, so I'm gonna add my lye, and we're gonna need, let's see. We need 4, so it's 3.1 ounces. So we're gonna need 4.1 more ounces after this. So I'm gonna add this in to my water here, and then I'm gonna swirl this around away from me. And it turns really white and doesn't, so we're gonna just continue add the rest of it here. So I got another 310, so that's 6.2. So we just need 1 more ounce after that. So I'm adding that in again, swirl it around. And then again, this is heating up right away to 200 degrees. And there are some fumes going on, so keep that away. So 1 more ounce here. There we go. So I'm gonna add this in. Hold this away from me, swirl it. And I don't know if you can see the fumes coming off, but there are some fumes. So then that's hot, you know, it's 200 degrees. So careful with handling the lye. So I'm gonna put this lid back on, and I'm gonna put my lye container back in that plastic wrap that I've stored in. And I'm gonna go put these things away. You know, we're done with this stuff. So I'll put this back in my box that I keep my soap making supplies. I'm also gonna take the plastic wrap off of this kitchen scale because I don't wanna have anything lye related on here now because we're all done with the lye. So I'm gonna take my gloves off. I'll leave them out here. I'm gonna need them again when I come back out to add the rest of make the rest of the soap. So I'm gonna pause the video again. So one of the reasons why I felt like I was qualified, or not qualified, but I wanted to take my first I wanted to try making soap was that one of the ways the soap was described was related to cakes, and I'm bake and cook, so I was like, oh, I can do that because they described the way the end product is supposed to be as a trace, sort of like the way if you move a spoon through a mixture and it holds the line if you're, making something on the stovetop like pudding or anything you're thickening. So I was like, okay, I can do this. So now I'm back inside. I'm going to mix, I'm going to put together the the oil mixture. So with this part, I'm using a kitchen bowl. This part is not going to have lye involved in it. It's just all the oils. So I'm just using all kitchen ingredient or supplies with this part. So what I'm going to do is the two separate parts need to be around the same temperature when you mix them together. So after we've mixed the lye mixture, we're going to set that out there, let that cool down because we could potentially heat these things up to 200 degrees and mix it right away, but I don't think these oils and stuff like that being that hot. So I have a pot here. I put about an inch of water in this pot. I'm going to put it on the stove and put this at a simmer. So this is just going to be on low heat here. And what we're doing is we're essentially doing a double boiler. So this is going to sit on top of the pot with the oils in it, and it's going to gently warm them before we add these to the lye mixture. So I have a little space here. I have my kitchen scale. Again, I've covered that with clean new plastic wrap. I'm putting my bowl on the scale. I'm going to hit 0 on the scale. So the first one is 15 ounces of olive oil. So I'm going to pour 15 ounces of olive oil right into this bowl here, and then proceed from there. Each time I add a new oil, I'm going to 0 the scale as to try to eliminate any error or as much error as possible, especially with measuring. I'm not the greatest math person, so I want to keep it as simple as possible. So to not make mistakes with this. So this is something that I would be, doing anyway. I just thought I would share it because, maybe other people want to know the soap making process. So, okay, so I have my 15 ounces of olive oil. I'm going to 0 out my scale again. It's at 0. I have my coconut oil, and I just warmed this in the microwave for a couple minutes so it's liquid. So I'm going to pour the 15 ounces of olive oil or coconut oil into here. And you may think, wow, this is a lot of oil, but this makes the soap very moisturizing, and it's great. So there's nothing going to be quite like this. Oh, oops. See, so I put 16 ounces there. So it's very easy to over pour here with these oils. I gotta wash my hand off here for a second. But what are you gonna do? I can't sift out the coconut oil there, so I've got 16 ounces. So then I'm going to 0 this again. So this recipe called for 12 ounces of almond oil. This almond oil is in this jar, so this itself is 16 ounces. So I'm like, I don't want to use all that much of this almond oil. So I'm going to use half avocado oil, half almond oil. So that would be 6 ounces of each. So I'm going to pour in this avocado oil. And is avocado oil the same as the almond oil? I don't know. Maybe not. I already have an extra ounce of the coconut oil, so maybe I'll just put 1 less ounce of this in there. So I'll do 5 ounces of avocado oil and then 6 ounces of the almond oil. Oh, I got 525. It goes fast. You got to be careful with your pour there. I'm going to 0 that out again, and then I'm going to add the 6 ounces of almond oil. Maybe I can do a little less since I did a little bit more than the 5 ounces for the avocado. See, this is not, you know, you want to try and keep it as exact as possible, but, you know, no one's perfect. I mean, you know, so you just do your best. So I did 545 of the almond oil. And then 6 ounces of shea butter and 1.5 ounces of castor oil. So this is castor oil here, so I'm going to zero that out, and this is thicker, this castor oil, so 1.5 ounces of this goes in, and 135, there it is, 1.5. So now with the shea butter is a little different consistency, it's thicker, so the shea butter is the main reason why I'm going to be warming up the oil, because I want that to get a little bit melted. So I knew I didn't have much shea butter left, so I got a new one. By the way, I order most of my ingredients other than the oils. Oils I get at, you know, we order grocery stores or big box stores. Order most of this other soap making supplies online. And you can see I've dug in here and there's not much shea butter left, but I've zeroed out my scale again, and we need 6 ounces of shea butter. So it's good when it's in small pieces like this because it's going to melt a little faster, but that's 140. Also, I didn't mention that with this particular soap, I'm going to be adding some ground cloves. So I have whole cloves that I'm going to put into the coffee grinder and grind those up, because I don't want to, when I'm using my soap and it gets down to the end, I don't want to have this like, you know, awkward clove that I'm like rubbing on my body. So the ground cloves are nice because I've done that before. It adds a little bit of texture. It adds some coarseness to the soap, but it doesn't leave me with this thing at the end of the soap that I'm rubbing on my body. But anyway, so I have 2 ounces, 2.35 ounces in the scale here, and then you can see how big of a piece this is. This is just like a whole chunk. So and it comes off just like that. So I'm gonna break this off a little bit, and oh shoot, so my scale turned off. So that's another thing too, like, oh, you gotta be careful with and watching everything. And this is a little bit messy, so there's that part of it, but that's all right. So I had 235, so I'm turning it back on now, so that's 335 and going up to 6 ounces. This is like my 8th batch of soap that I've made. I've gotten better along the process. I find soap recipes and try them out, or you know, I have ideas that I want to try. Also, you know, with the clove, you can add whatever you want to your soap to make it yours. So I have 4.45, and so I'm going to say that's 6 there. Whatever you have. So I've grown some sunflowers this summer, so I was going to try and make a sunflower soap. Now, there is no recipe that I could find exactly for sunflower soap, but there was a soap recipe that's called Autumn Leaves. So I'm going to try that. After I've taken the seeds out of my sunflowers, and I'm going to dry them, and I was going to use something like this to put inside of the sunflower soap, and then this is going to be kind of scratchy, so like loofah, and I don't know if I like that, I don't know, but I'm going to try it. And I also got a sunflower oil fragrance oil to put in there. but you can use whatever you want. You know, you can find a recipe and whatever you have, you know, you may certainly try. If you were going to use some leaves, I would say make sure you know what kind of leaves you're using and that they're not going to be harmful or wouldn't have anyone have an allergic reaction, or that they're not, you know, poison ivy leaves, something like that. But you know, also you could use whatever you have, acorns, anything natural, pine cones, anything you like. I don't know. Try it out. I can't say how it is. I haven't used those things, but you know, the sky is the limit as far as being creative and making it your own. You may not find the exact recipe out there, but I encourage you to try it. What have you got to lose? So I'm going to put this bowl on top of the double boiler, and the soap, the oils are going to warm a little bit. This is what this ends up looking like. All the oils and the shea butter is the sort of floaty stuff. So that I'm going to put over the pot here of boiling water and let that warm up, because the oil mixture and the lye mixture need to be around the same temperature when we mix them together. So I'm going to pause it again. I'm also going to wash my hands, and I'm going to grind up some cloves. I'm going to put them into another container that I have that was the same as like the metal one with that I used to measure the lye in. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. So as you can see here, here's my pot with the oil, and I just have that down real low, and it's gonna take some time for this to melt a little bit. I don't want all of the shea butter to melt completely. It's good if there are a few pieces, because if things are, I've just found that with the temperature, if there's something that's a little bit cooler than the rest of it, that'll be a good thing when we go to use the immersion blender to mix everything together. So I have whole cloves here, and then I have one of those little silver containers that I measured out the lye in. And I'm just going to use this to also measure out these cloves. Now, I'm not putting these on the scale because it's not as important, because this is something that I just decided I wanted to add myself. We are using clove oil, essential oil too. This is going to add a little texture. So so I'll just use one of these, and then I'm going to blend this up or grind it in the coffee grinder. So and again, this is just something that I wanted to do, and I liked it. So and then for this one, I'm going to do this batch. I've made this one before once or twice, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour half of my mixture into my prepared vessels for the soap, and then I'm going to just eyeball it, and then add the rest of these that are ground up to the other mixture, and then I'm going to pour that on top, so that I've seen in other soap making videos and that how there's like two different colors of soap and they're swirled together. So I'm going to attempt to do that today. I don't know how it's going to come out, but I do know that the one's going to be a little darker, and it's going to have more texture in it with this by adding these ground up cloves. Now they're both mixtures are going to be the same as far as the ingredients, because I'm going to add all the essential oil, so it'll be in all of it. But there, people get fancy, and they have separate bowls that they'll add different colors to, and put, there are so many different ways of doing this soap and making it more appealing or eye-catching. But for me, I want to try and keep it as natural as possible by using all natural ingredients and not adding color, because again, you're going to be using that on your body, and I don't know what that food coloring, maybe it'll do nothing, but I don't want to I wouldn't want to use some kind of purple food coloring in my soap and then like go to take a shower and like, oh, why look at that, I'm a shade of purple. So anyway, I'm I'm not gonna, I don't add anything, but I could, I suppose you could add even like, if you put like beets in the blender, that would be a natural way of creating a purple color. That I mean, I haven't done that. I haven't read about it, but again, I'm trying to do things that that there's not always a formula for it. So I'm not, I mean, I'm going to make sunflower soap, but there's no, when I go and look up sunflower soap, there's no, oh, yeah, you just, grow the sunflowers, pick out the seeds, save the pods, and make that into the bottom of the sunflower soap. I haven't seen anything like that, but it's just an idea I had and I wanted to try it out. And what have I got to lose? I mean, if it's messed up, it's messed up. I'll probably use it anyway, but it might be something great also. So there are other soap recipes out there that are, whatever, dandelion and different flowers. So there's also a little bit of coffee grinds left over in this coffee grinder. So the coffee that we grind next might have a little hint of clove in it, but whatever. So I'll put those in there, and I'm gonna grind these up. So we'll take this off of here. And it smells good. It smells like Christmas in here. So, and if there were some bigger pieces, it's not that big of a deal. But for the most part, this is going to be ground up like coffee to add to our soap. So just get that in there, and I'm going to pause it again until this gets a little more warm, and then our lye mixture is a little cooled off. We have it outside, leaving it outside in the garage the whole time for the fumes to dissipate and stay in a well-ventilated area. And so the last thing we have to measure is the essential oils. And again, I'm going to add this separately after I've mixed everything and separated half of it. So I have my vessels ready. And so it's just going to take some time for the temperature of both parts to be about the same. So I'm going to pause it again here. So I just checked on my lye. The lye is cooled off, and as you can see, the shea butter has melted some. There are still some pieces here, but I sort of want that. So this oil mixture is, it's warm to the touch, but it's not hot. I just wanted to show you before we go outside to resume. I want you to make sure that you wipe off the bottom of the bowl to get off any water that's on there, so that you don't add any water to the lye mixture outside. We don't want to add anything that we don't want in there. And this is actually a little bit warm here, so I'm going to let this kind of chill for a few minutes before we go out there, because if things aren't the same temperature, it'll take longer to mix, or you're not going to get the trace that's often talked about with soap making quickly. But if things are pretty close to the same temperature, you can get the trace very quickly, and makes for an easy soap making process. So let's see, there's a few pieces left in here, so that's good. That's a good thing. I want to try not to have this be hotter than the lye mixture. So it's just warmer like on the bottom where it was over the pan. And again, the water never reached a boil. I kept it low, like at a 2 or 3 at the most on the stove. So low heat. And that's what you want to do generally with a double boiler. Because would be, say you're warming up chocolate in a bowl, or eggs, something like that, something that you're warming delicately so that it doesn't scorch, or it doesn't make the eggs curdle. So, all right, so I'm gonna pause the video again, and then we'll go back outside and show you the final mixing together of everything, and also measuring the essential oils. Okay, so here we are back outside in the garage. If I feel both of my bowls, or both my mixtures, the lye mixture in the bucket and the oil mixture, they feel about the same temperature. So we're ready to go. So I have my scale here. I'm going to zero it. I have it on ounces. We need 1 ounce of each of the essential oils. So oh yeah, 0.35. I like to get these. I like to get these bigger bottles of essential oils because, you know, when you're using a lot of it here, it's kind of like, oh man, I used the whole bottle. But it doesn't feel as bad when I have 4 ounces. So, I measured the clove oil and the orange oil, so we have to do the rosemary oil. But I'm going to set this aside for a moment because I'm not going to be able to fit any more in there. So here we go. Here's the moment of truth. So I'm going to put my gloves on here with handling the lye stuff. So here we go. So I'm going to, I have my oils. I just normally pour everything in. Yeah, so I'll just pour it in here. I'm not going to pour it all yet, so I'll leave a little bit there. And then you do want to make sure you have enough oil in here that when you put your immersion blender in, that this is immersed under, because you don't want this going everywhere. You got to be safe about this. So I'm going to turn on my immersion All right, so we're getting a nice trace already. So I'm going to add the rest of the oil here. Make sure you scrape that in. You don't want to waste anything here. Learn that in the kitchen too. Like why leave, percent in the bowl when you're already accounted for it and it's there. Just use it up, scrape it in there. So this isn't going to take long here. So I'm going to turn it It's really light, right? Same color, lighter. A little piece of shea butter in there, but that's alright. Okay, so blend it in. Sometimes in cooking, while baking, especially with using KitchenAid, you listen for the difference in the texture. So we might be able to hear how this is going to get a little thicker and it'll sound different with the blender. And keep bringing this back and forth so I can see I've got that straight. Starting to look thick. One of the things I read about before I attempted this was that it would be like the consistency of cake batter. And I was like, oh, I know about that. I can do that. This is getting thicker. There's some bike riders passing by. Also, I wanted to mention if you're doing this in the wintertime, it's really cold outside. Your lye is going to cool a lot faster. So depending on that temperature, you're keeping that in. So it's getting pretty thick here. I don't quite have the trace yet, but I can see a few lines kind of sticking around. I want to be sure that I don't use my kitchen stuff anymore. I'm only going to use my lye spatula. here on out. So I don't know if you've noticed a different sound, but it does seem it's getting thicker. And we can start to see the line sort of stay behind. So that's the trace. So it's not super duper thick, but if you guys ever made lemon curd, this is getting into that type of where it coats the back. We have it coating the back of the spoon. You go and put your finger across it, and you know it stays there, other than where you just scraped across there. So I can see some lines forming here. So I'm going to say it's good to go. So you can see those lines. Leaves a line somewhere. It's thicker. So now I'm going to add this essential oil in. You still have to measure the rosemary on. Good. I love the essential oils. All right, so that's zero on my rosemary on here. So we're going to add an ounce of this. Oops. And also, I have to wait. So, pour this in. And I'm honestly not a big rosemary person, but kind of adds a earthy, I don't know, shiny sort of Christmas in the soap that complements the clove and orange scents very well. So as long as I have everything mixed in here, make sure it's all mixed well. You don't want to ever bring the immersion blender up too high where it's going to blow the soap around. You got to be careful. And you can see how it's getting even thicker here. Now this is looking more like cake batter. So again, having the two mixtures the same temperature is going to help a lot with getting that trace. And that is definitely some trace. You guys see that there. Alright, so oh yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to eyeball this to see about half of it, add to my vessels here where I'm going to store this stuff away. So here's my lye spoon or spatula, and then I have those set up right behind me over here. So here's the loaf pan that I showed you earlier. So I'll just pour that in there, almost like banana pudding. People have commented when I made this before that it looks like fudge. So, and then I have this the one that I showed you before that is lined with foil. So I'm going to pour some in here. I'm going to say that's about half. So, and I told you that we're doing adding the ground up cloves to the rest of this, the other half, to have it be the two different colors, and we're going to swirl that together. See how that works. I don't know. I'm going to try it. So I'm just going to pour those cloves in there. Here we go. And this is going to make it darker, of course. So, okay, here we go. Okay, this time I'm really gonna scrape this off. I need to get my hand in there to try to keep things as least messy as possible in this process, especially with the, again, there's the lye in here, so we want to be real careful. So try and keep my hand out of there. But normally I really want to try and get a little last bit of this. Go through this whole process. So, and then you can see this here. This is it's the clove infused portion. So I'm going to pour this again over in our vessels. Oops. And we're going to swirl this. Just use a spatula. I've never done this before, but it always looks so pretty. I figured it was worth a try. That's kind of how I feel with this. It's like, let's just try it out. Why not? What have we got to lose? So I really enjoy this soap making process, and it's really nice to give this as gifts, and people really like it. And I made it and took the time and energy and everything to make something special for myself and for others. I mean, I could go buy this natural made soap in the store, but it's not something that I've made. So I feel like that makes it special. Close this out. So here's our soap in the vessel, and what I'm going to do is just take the spatula and kind of run it through here long ways and then the short ways, and I don't know how this is going to look when we get done. I don't know, we'll see. But after I do this, I'm going to tap it down, and then I'm going to put it inside of those boxes that I showed you that I keep stored away when not in use. And this whole soap making process is called cold process soap. So because of the lye in it, it's going to take about 4 to 6 weeks for this soap to be non-caustic and therefore safe to use. So I'm going to have to store this soap away. This is the hardest part of the whole process, is having to wait for it to be ready. But you have to. It has to go through the soapification process because the lye in the present tense of how we just used it is caustic, so it can burn you. So you have to be very careful with this, and I would always err on the side of caution and go the 6 weeks rather than 4 weeks to not have any issues. So I generally take a picture of myself, and then it'll say on my camera, the date. So, but today is August 31st, so this soap is going to be good and ready on Halloween. So, so again, if you're a good planner, this soap making process is something that you want to do in advance. So this will be ready plenty in time before the holidays. And then I can show you when this is all set up after, that 2 months, how I cut it. Because what I do usually is, I want it to be non-caustic because I'm going to use kitchen items to cut it. So I'll use this big butcher knife and a hot pot of water and warm it up, and it comes very easily. So that's as it was today. That was the soap making process. So I'm going to wrap this up with this plastic wrap, or I'm sorry, the parchment paper. I'm going to add a little more parchment on top of it. I'm going to put it inside of those boxes I showed you, and put them in that garbage bag, and I'm going to store them away in a warm, in just a dry, dark area in the basement, basically for 2 months until I can cut those. So now with this process being completed, I'm going to clean everything up. I'm going to, make sure that I have as much as possible off of the stuff here, and then I'll probably wipe it off with this plastic wrap I'm going to throw away that's on top of the stove, and then, the scale. And then I'm going to wash everything in the utility sink downstairs with my my lye sponge that I have. So I'm going to take my gloves off here, and that's it. So it's doesn't take too long, but I wanted to share the soap making process with you so that you could see that it's not difficult. It's just a matter. For me, it was getting a feel for it and feeling comfortable with what I'm doing, and it's working out. I like it. My family likes the soap that I'm making, so I wanted to see how I do it. So that's it. That's how I do it. So